Welcome to 2026, people.
We hope you had a great Christmas and have enjoyed the last weekend of the break.
A new year brings a new time for both reflection and for looking ahead.
So before the hellmouth cracks open for the spring term, we thought we would add our own New Year's message to those of our betters.
And cast an eye over the state of teachers' workload in the opening days of 2026. Think 1265 was set up 20 months ago by a couple of ne'er-do-well troublemakers to help teachers understand how workload should be managed in their schools, particularly in the context of the comprehensive workload agreement which formed a central part of teachers' pay deal offered by a reconstituted Stormont executive. TNC 2024/2 offered genuine hope that teachers' workload would finally be managed properly, giving teachers the time they need to do their difficult job well, while preventing that job from spilling into their private lives outside of school. Sadly, that workload agreement was never fully implemented in many schools, mainly because of the absence of an effective oversight mechanism which allowed teachers' contractual rights to be ignored with relative impunity.
For many teachers in May or June 2024, their workload jumped from barely achievable under ASOS to impossible within a couple of months, and it continued to grow from there. It seemed that the promises made and the agreements signed meant nothing in the classrooms and corridors where we worked. Teachers made their feelings on the matter abundantly clear during the fraught pay negotiations last year.
Zapatero, ¿qué opina usted del gobierno de Zapatero?
Twice rejecting a further raft of promises over workload from the management side. And you can hardly blame them. Fool us once, shame on you. Fool us repeatedly over a period of 15 years, and shame on you again. With a little bit of shame on us for believing you.
It was only after the Minister himself stepped in with the formal offer of a full and independent review of workload to address this issue once and for all that teachers voted to stand down from industrial action for the second time in 12 months. It seemed that the direction of travel had changed at last. Jane Austen once wrote that, "To wish was to hope, and to hope was to expect." And we really ought to have known better.
We had hoped that each action point on the heads of agreement would produce clear and non-negotiable instructions to principals about workload issues. But rather than a new procedure about teacher workload being simple and clear, with principals being told that this must be standard practice in their schools from a certain date, we instead get obfuscated language which dances around the issue.
If you live in a council flat beside a river but are not blind, what?
With the only clear sentence being the bit which says that the final decision on whether or not to implement these rights lie with the principals.
So, promises made to empower teachers by improving their working conditions seem to have been implemented with language which reinforces the existing power structures in schools. And it doesn't matter if this is the case or not. It's the perception that will matter when it comes to teachers voting whether or not to maintain the industrial stability that the Minister is after.
This is Northern Ireland, which shut the government down over the colour of a bin lorry, so we know how important perception is.
While the independent review panel started their work with impressive gusto, asking all the right questions and turning over all the right rocks, some managers began to use waiting for the review as an excuse for why they couldn't implement our existing workload agreements in the 25-26 academic year.
Worst of all, last June, rumours began to spread across the principal sphere of training sessions from the management side where they were still singing the same old tunes, including greatest hits such as 1265 is a minimum, not a maximum, or coursework marking isn't part of your contracted hours, and that old Bing Crosby classic, everybody knows, teaching is a vocation.
While management denied that their trainers ever said any such thing, rumours still matter. And whatever may or may not have been said during the training in June had real-world negative impacts on teachers' workload this year.
The sad truth is that although 2025 was billed as a year where resolving the workload crisis was at the top of the agenda for all stakeholders, in many of our schools it was business as usual.
For far too many teachers, their workload rights were either ignored outright or their managers resorted to such sophistry about interpreting TNC 2024/2 as to make our workload agreements worthless in their schools. But these shenanigans come at cost.
every single time the wording of an agreement is tweaked to allow managers a get-out clause, or every single time a trainer leaves a room full of principals unclear about what their obligations are under the TNCs, or every single time a school leader decides to willfully misinterpret our workload agreements to push teachers into unpaid work outside of their contracted hours,
Trust in the management side is eroded.
and the calls for action short of strike action grow louder.
So after one of the most exhausting terms we can remember, many of us start this new year with our workload as bad as ever.
It's easy to feel dejected as we dust off our lanyards and sharpen our board markers. Yet, even in the cold dark of winter, the pale light of hope scrapes over the horizon. To understand why, we need to talk about legacy.
Terry Pratchett once wrote, "No one is finally dead until the ripples they cause in the world die away." This is legacy.
It's the things we do in this life which live on after we're gone.
The current Minister for Education is thinking about his legacy. And last year he embarked on sweeping reforms across every aspect of education in Northern Ireland.
You're joking. Not another one?
With elections looming in the spring of 2027, the clock is ticking to turn the Given reforms into reality.
But Mr Given can't build his legacy without teachers on board. And we won't be on board without reasonable working conditions. So at least for the moment, what teachers want and what the Minister wants are connected.
As part of the fraught pay negotiations last spring, the Minister ordered an independent review of teacher workload. That report was published in December, and it made 27 clear recommendations to quickly address workload issues in our schools.
Key among them was the development of the TNC as an arbitrator for workload issues, which could, in theory, finally give us a sensible and safe mechanism to ensure that our workload rights are upheld in our schools.
That initiative alone has the potential to resolve many of the issues we've detailed earlier in this video, as it provides some long-awaited neutral accountability to the process.
Without individual teachers having to take their principals on directly through a grievance procedure.
And with the other recommendations covering things such as reducing principals' workload,
protecting teachers from the zombie clause,
and ensuring that time is provided for coursework and controlled assessment, this raft of cost-effective and easily implementable improvements to teachers' workload has given the Minister realistic ways of making our working lives better.
Game over, man. It's game over.
Most of all, though, the independent review finally put on the public record the reality of teachers' workload in this country. And you know what? They found that it's every bit as bad as what teachers have been saying it is for the last 20 years.
They said that our job, while rewarding and valuable, is challenging, complex and stressful. And not only are our workloads unsustainable, but they are damaging teachers' well-being, the status of the profession and our ability to deliver the high-quality education we want for our young people.
Their report paints a picture of a system at breaking point, and we finally run out of road to kick this particular can down. To help fix this, the panel offers the Minister clear and cost-effective solutions which should alleviate some of these harms in the immediate to short term. But he needs to act quickly and comprehensively, without equivocation, using his power to ensure that these recommendations are implemented in every school before this academic year is out, with some in place within weeks, not months.
Do that, and the Minister can add revolutionising teachers' workload to his legacy this year. Fail to do that, and the only reliable way left for teachers to make their workload manageable will be to pressure their union into action short of strike action, which is just another can being kicked down yet another road.
We all know that there isn't the money in Northern Ireland for the management side to offer teachers the kind of pay settlements which would buy them off from ASOS this time round. So the only thing management side have to bargain with is more promises. And we've heard those promises before.
Because you have been down there, Neil. You know that road. You know exactly where it ends.
It's been 15 years since the Teachers' Health and Wellbeing Strategy called for action on the growing problem of teachers' workload, and it's finally time for our leaders to make good on their word.
Yoda said it best.
Do or do not. There is no try.
So, here we are, with a once-in-a-generation opportunity to crack this problem before the end of the academic year.
Let's see what kind of legacy the minister wants to build.
Brian,
And Helen.
out.
Always with you what cannot be done.